Okay, welcome back everyone. In this video we're going to go over tips and tricks, some steps that we've found make your life a little easier using the mask kit on the model. We'll go over hull paneling, we'll go through registry numbers, we'll go through aztecing. We'll just put together a whole bunch of stuff that we find we think will be valuable for you guys. So the first one we're going to go over is the hull paneling. That's these gray sections on the top and bottom of the saucer section. So when you get if you go to sheet 19, you'll see all the paneling masks. The best thing to do is to pull off this center section on both of these and just place it on top of this saucer before you start your aztecing. Now that's after you've done your base paint and get your hull prepped and everything ready for your aztecing. So we'll place that on top of there, then you'll put your aztecing on, paint all your aztecing. Then when you pull your aztecing off, this area will still be white. Then you can use the outside section to place over your aztecing to actually fill in the grays or whatever color you wish to paint your paneling. We found that to be the best. Painting the gray and then putting this piece over top of here to protect this from the aztecing. We've been finding through the website that some people have been having some issues with paint pulling off depending on what they're using. So I think if we step back and think of a better way of doing it, I think if you just put the mask on top of the white base, protect it, Aztec, and then put your outside piece on, then you're never really putting a mask on top of the gray. So I think that will work out a lot better for you. The next thing we did is we talked about these top panel lines on the top side of the saucer, and we're showing the square box with the little outside box or the outside framework of it. And what we're going to be changing on the kit now is we're actually removing that outside box. We're just giving you the inside one and the outside one, and you're going to apply the same method that we just talked about on the lower saucer for the upper saucer. You're going to pull off these little squares, place them on the upper saucer, paint your aztecing, pull those squares off, then put the outside square on, paint your gray or again or whatever color you want to paint your panels. And then we're suggesting using the kit decals for the red and gray lines that are around the squares. I think it just comes out with a nicer look to your model. So moving on, I think the next thing we want to do is we want to talk registration numbers. Now we're just starting to work on our model, so I don't have the upper one done, and so I haven't started the registry. So what I've done is I've taken just a standard piece of styrene plastic, and I've actually painted it with the same steps that we've used in the previous videos on base paint. Alright, so here's the same styrene piece. You're going to have to excuse me, this is the one that we use for our testing. So we've done our coats to get everything, our base coat the way it should be. Now we're starting on the masking. So what we did is we laid out the first mask. The first mask is for your red outline. So what we did is we laid that out, painted the red, and we pull it off immediately. Pull it off, and then you don't have to worry of removing any of these little red lines. So we pulled that off, and we gave it a couple coats of our clear and left that for a couple days, let that seal up and protect. Then we'll go ahead and start laying these ones on, and hopefully we don't get any of these really fine lines pulled off as some of the people have been having on the web page. So I'm going to go ahead and start applying these, and I'm going to shoot the black. Like I said before in the other videos on how we did this, you're best to put your clear coat on here, cut these lines off, cut these into sections, and placing these on one at a time. And it's fairly easy right now because once you see, you can see the red below. This blue is transparent. It's pretty easy to center this over top. I'll show you a couple of them, and then I'll go ahead and get the rest on and shoot the black on and see how things come out. Okay, so the clear transfer tape's been put on our registry number, and like I said, I'm just going to cut. Now you don't have to cut really deep. All you have to do is just cut through the vinyl. You don't have to cut through the cardboard. And I'm just going to lift one of these off. Now just like in the other video, you just want to float this over top so you get the same even blue line. It might take you a couple times to get used to this, but I find this is a lot better than trying to lay down the entire piece as one unit. So our black letter is going to be, and we have that little blue line, and then there, which will be the white line, and then the red line on the outside. So again, just cut this. If you don't press it down, you can always remove it and reposition it. One of the other things we're looking at is we might move to the gray mask for this. It's less tacky and it might work out better for you, but we're still working on that one. I think that's pretty good there. So the reason I wanted to show you doing two of these is right now, when we had the previous step in the previous video, we still had the black mask laid on the hull, and then we placed the blue on top. That means if any of these lines here, if there was any gap in these lines, the black mask is below, so it's not going to affect it. So now what we want to do is, now that you've got, we've taken the black mask off and we put the blue line on, or the blue mask, there might be a really fine line here where these two are joining. So I think the best thing to do is just take a bit of masking tape, or a piece of the mask, and just kind of just lay it over top of the line. And then there's no way that you're going to get a little black faint line there between. So I'm going to finish the rest of these. I'm going to spray it black, and we'll come back and I'll show you the results of this. Alright, so I've got all the clear transfer tape taken off. I'm just going to show you what I was talking about here. If you pull this off, see what happened here, how I got an overlap on this side and on this side? Don't know why that happened. That just could just be the way that if one of these masks is put on just a little bit crooked, you're going to kind of get that. So this is why these pieces of tape are going to protect any of the areas between each letter. So I'm going to mask that off, paint that black, and I'm going to come right back. Alright, we've got our black applied. We're going to remove the mask and see how everything worked out. Okay, so just carefully lift the corner. Then you can bring your tweezers in. Now the other thing we showed when we were doing the strong back and the deflectors, you can use a hairdryer if you want to soften up the glue. It makes it a little easier to come off. This will come off a lot easier on the hull than it will on this little piece of styrene plastic, but the outcome will be the same. If it doesn't tear off here, it's not going to tear off on the hull. And I'm just taking my time because I don't want to repaint anything. So you can see none of the red line was taken off, and that was due to the fact that we put a couple coats of clear on it and we left it for a couple days. At least 24 hours I would leave it for. Don't get too excited and jump right into it after an hour. Might as well just take your time, then you're not going back and repainting anything. So I'll go through and remove the rest of this and show you how it all looks at the end. Okay, so we pulled off all our masking and all the paint has stayed on the hull. We don't have to worry about anything coming off. Like I said, it's really critical you get those 2 coats of clear on there. And yeah, let's move on to something else. Alright, so now we've got that done. We're going to move on to, let's do the Aztecing. Let's show you how this is all created. You can see how this part of our saucer section is now completed. We've got the sensor dome all done, the interior stuff, the paneling lines are on, phaser banks. Gave it a little coat of a clear just to give it that shimmering look. We'll kind of go through the steps that we took to create this, but one thing I wanted to go through, when we first did our first video, we were using this powdered pigment, and we were actually mixing it with an acrylic clear, and that's what we were spraying with. But what I found with that is you were getting, the paint was getting a lot of buildup, and I was using that white eraser to kind of knock it down, but I still wasn't very happy with it. So I sanded the whole hull down, and somebody on the Facebook page was telling me about these inks that they bought, so I thought I'd give those a try. I went down to my art store and found these inks. So what these are an acrylic ink, This is the brand I found. There's other brands on the market, but it's just a acrylic artist ink. And you can see in here, you can see where all the pigment is at the bottom, and there's already a solution on there. So once you give this thing a really good shake, all the pigment will come off the bottom, and you just airbrush this stuff right out of the jar. It's designed for airbrush, paintbrush, and all these other applications. So it was really good stuff to use. It's very thin, and that's what we used. And once we did all that, it's really hard to feel the difference between the white hull and the colors, because the laydown is so light, but the effect is really nice. It's the same effect you're going to get with the dry pigments, only you're not going to get the buildup. So let's go through the way we did this. So in this first photo, you can see that we've already gone through all the Aztecing, applying the blue over the panels, so they're protected, they're not going to get painted. And we've also applied our blue Aztec to the entire lower section of the hull. A lot of this stuff is covered in the other videos, so I didn't really need to go through that. I just want to get into more of in-depth, step-by-step of how things are done, kind of show you some photos of what we did. So once all the blue is done, we go to sheet number 1 and we pull off the pie sections of the secondary Aztec. Now these are the ones you're going to use probably 6 times throughout the bottom. Tape off one side, do one side, and we'll move on to the other side later. So I numbered these 1 through 8 on the one side of the hull, and I applied gold paint over all the sections. The next photo is going to show that we've actually removed all those templates or those masks from sheet 1, and you can actually see the little gold squares on each one of those. Now what we've done is we've reapplied the mask again, but we've reapplied it in a different order, and just pick whatever random order you want, but mark it down so you know that the very first pie section was number 1, and now it's going to be number 5, because you're going to need to also pick it a third time for the next color. So once you've placed all those sheets down, then you're going to apply, and in this step we actually did the red, and the next photo is going to show you that now that we've applied the red, we've taken off the mask. You can see now the gold squares and the red squares starting to appear on the bottom of the hull. So then again, you reapply the mask again, keeping note of which ones were which, mix them up again. Now you're going to apply your green. So once you've applied your green, you can pull those masks off, and you can pull all of the main masks off the hull, because now you're pretty much completed there. Now once all this stuff is done and you're finished this side of the hull, you're just going to take the same steps that we've just gone through, flip it over to the other side of the hull, and do the same thing on that side. So once that's all finished, there's also, once you've taken everything off, there's another level of Aztec you have to put on top of this again, and that's to kind of fill in the little white areas. I don't know if we can show you any of them. There's a red one in here, green one over in here, and so what you do with those is, rather than give you a mask, you're going to get extra stuff, extra mask in all your kits. So all I would do is I would just cut one in half for now. Just find whatever color you've got and cut. You're going to cut a really thin, long line. And then a small square. Now this is, I mean use a ruler when you're doing this. I'm just kind of quickly going over this to show you what we're doing. This is all covered in the Trek Modeler Guide, so you'll kind of get an idea what we're doing here. So once that's done, the nice thing about this gray one is it's easy to lift up and put on. So what we're doing is, all I'm doing is I'm just floating this over top of an area, and I'm going to go, I want to do one here. Just tap in the center part. You don't need to do the whole outside. You're just airbrushing here. You might airbrush your gold on this side, then pull this one off and move it to somewhere else. You're going to do the same with this step, and then when this is done, you repeat the pattern again. Do a little bit of the reds everywhere, a little bit of the greens everywhere. I think I got about 3 golds, 3 greens, 3 reds in each panel, various of the long lines and the little squares. And then that was pretty much that was pretty much it for our hull, and then we just gave it a clear coat just to kind of protect everything. Okay, now we'll look a little bit closer in the steps that are, I guess, kind of on this starburst kind of pattern that is right beside the lower sensor array. So on step number 1, when you're weeding your masks, there was the little sections that I'm showing to remove and save. Those are the ones that we're going to be painting blue, so I want to just take those off the sheet. So weed the masks as shown on picture number 1. And then photo number 2, you can start laying your mask out. We've also weeded out all the little circles and the squares and the other little accent pieces that are on there because they're going to be blue anyway. That's going to be our first color. You might as well weed them now versus weeding them on the model and taking the chance of maybe scratching the paint. Photo number 3 now shows we're starting to mask and get ready for paint. You can see that we've saved all those little sections. You don't have to put them in any particular order because they're all identical. Just get them on the wax paper or your transfer paper and save them for later. So once photo 3 is all masked off, you're going to paint the blue. Now once you're done the blue, you're going to be painting all those, or putting all those masks back on top of the place you took them off. That's shown on photo number 4. You can see now all the masks are totally placed on number 4, and then on photo number 5 we're going to remove the center sections. Once you've got all that done, then move to picture number 5. You can see how we've pulled those center sections off, and you paint your gold down. And once the gold's on, you can pull everything off, clean it all off. You can see here the final result is one of the pictures. And the aztecing for the lower sensor array, I don't need to show you that. That's pretty much covered in the videos previous to this. So that's what the final product will look like. Okay, well, I think that's all we need to cover during this video. Be sure to visit us on our Facebook page at Aztec Masking Kit by Mass Design. That's where we've got everyone building their kits and going over challenges they're having or showing some stuff they've come up with, or other little tricks. And then the more and more information we get, then the more and more videos we'll get out to you guys. Thanks for watching.